Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Knife Standards RR Station, which was actually, if I understand this correctly, the design was inspired by the designer's father's love of trains. I hope I got that correct. That would make sense because, you know, initially I didn't realize, or I wouldn't have thought it looks kind of like a train, but it does kind of look like a train in the coolest way possible. I think, like, being able to see the knife adds the cool factor. If somebody told me that, I'd be like, I don't know exactly what that's going to end up looking like, but this actually looks pretty good. So thanks so much to Knife Standards for sending this in for me to take a look at. Thanks so much to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. The pre-order for these went up a while back. I checked the website and it looks like at the moment they are sold out, but it really depends on when you're watching this video and if the designer decides to do more. I hope he does, because I like this. So I'll link the website in any case so that you guys can check it out. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2. It's a pretty big knife. In fact, to give context, we probably should measure it first. The overall length is coming in at about 8 points. Well, we're a little bit shy of 8.75, about 8.65. The blade length is an impressive 3.85, and your cutting edge is about 3.35 inches. Big knife. I mean, on the larger side, not a huge knife, just on the larger side. Let's put it up against the Demco AD 20.5. There we go. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3, if I can get it turned over. There we go. And last but not least, we'll put it up against the Benchmade Bug Out, and finally the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue. How's the action on this knife? Holy crap. I don't know what the deal is. These are manufactured by Bestech, but the action is really, really smooth. I mean, I've handled Bestech knives that are similarly smooth, and I've handled Bestech knives that aren't, which means a lot of it just comes down to the design. But wow, I mean, it is really smooth. It's also really satisfying to have a full blade length fuller that is accessible. Exactly. It's the same amount of accessibility all the way down. So however you like to reverse flick, if you prefer to use your pinky way down there, not many knives you can freaking pinky reverse flick, right? Oh man, I don't know why. It's like, well, you're never going to need to do that, but there's something really satisfying about that. It's just not an experience I normally get to have. I don't know if that was intended or if that just came along with this sort of train look. Either way, it's great. This one is really fun to deploy. I would say it's easiest to deploy with the thumb stud, but it's plenty easy to deploy with the fuller. And yes, you can actually front flip it as well. So there's a good amount of fidget factor with this guy, which is nice because it's a larger knife and sometimes you're a little bit limited, usually for safety reasons, on how you can deploy these things. But yeah, it's fun. And it's, like I said, it's crazy smooth, and there's plenty of access to the lock bar as well. So really enjoyable experience here. Let's go ahead and do carry profile thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's a little on the thicker side, for sure. Not insane, but it's definitely thicker than the Para 3. Up against the PM2 and Para 3, length and height. It's definitely about the same overall length as the PM2, nowhere near as tall, and way longer, than the Spyderco Para 3. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. We have a T8 pivot, and then we have T8 body screws. Nice work. Also, look at this. This is now the second time that I have seen this, and I want, I don't know if OEMs and designers, I don't know if they all watch my channel, but this is something that we can echo as a community as a really good solution to a stupid problem. This knife has a milled clip that is ambidextrous, and the mounting slots are small enough that, in my opinion, it does not take away from the aesthetic beauty, right? So this is kind of like a wire clip setup. It's what we normally see for a wire clip, but this milled clip actually has two little, they're like rails of titanium underneath that are just milled in part of the clip, and they seat perfectly inside of these two little lines, and then you use one screw and it sets it in place. So we have a symmetrical clip. This allows, this solves most of the problem, you know, when people say like, oh, but if they mill it for left-handed carry, then I, as a right-handed person, have to look at the other side, right? Which is dumb. It's an invalid complaint. That's just dumb noise coming out of a stupid face hole. This is a good way to do this. This is, I saw Kunwu do it like this once, and now I'm seeing knife standards do it like this, and I think that's great. Lefties can actually enjoy this, even though it is a right-handed frame lock. It is, as you can see, very easy to manipulate with my left hand, even though I am a right-handed person. That's very easy to do. So this is a great solution. Instead of milling a huge chunk out of it, it's just two little lines and a screw right there, which I think is fine. Even if we're looking at a contoured surface or a textured surface, something really, really beautiful, I think that that's pretty minimal. It's not going to solve every single problem, but there are definitely knives like this out there that they have just gone, nah, let's just not put anything there. And it's like, well, why? I mean, I'm glad that this is there so that left and right-handed people can both enjoy it, and they didn't have to make a whole different knife to accommodate for left-handed people. So pretty cool. Anyways, what were we talking about? Let's weigh it. I think we were talking about hardware. So yeah, to finish up here, it's just a couple of screws here holding in the scales, but there's also a couple of screws underneath here holding in the standoff. So you're gonna have a few extra screws than what I would consider to be minimal, but this is going to be very easy to take apart either way. So no big deal there. For materials, we are looking at probably M390, right? Nope, it's freaking Vanax. Wow, that's awesome. And they're actually getting the heat treat correct. I think I saw on their website they're aiming for 61 to 62, which is, or maybe it's 60 to 61. Yeah, that's, I was going to say, Vanax doesn't get that hard, or it shouldn't get that hard. I think they're aiming for 60 to 61, which is appropriate for Vanax. So that's awesome. I'm really happy that we are seeing Vanax out there, freaking Vanax, more often, right? Pretty cool stuff. And then we have, in this case, carbon fiber and titanium. There are a few other variants, but this is more or less what you're going to see. I mean, as far as like weight goes, they're all going to weigh about the same, 4.3 ounces, which is not bad at all, considering we have a 3.85 inch blade. Let's measure it again, because I'm now less confident for some reason. Yeah, about 3.85 inches, so pretty good. Let's measure blade stock thickness. That looks like 155 to me. What do you guys think? Huh? Oh, 145. Okay, not bad. It's not middle of the road. I always say it's about 135, so it's a little thicker than that, but no big deal. Okay, this is a cool looking knife. It's just like a long, like a tactical razor blade. And there actually is subtle, very subtle curvature right out towards the tip. It doesn't go, just very slightly, right? If you lay this down, the part of the blade that finally contacts, it won't lay, like you can't lay, it's not like a good kitchen knife because it doesn't lay down right here. It finally touches about right here. But that's okay. The blade profile is very cool. It will work, I mean, definitely it'll work for EDC. And I believe it's slightly hollow, yeah. So that's cool. And I mean, as far as slicing ability goes, let me get a piece of paper here. It's not going to prove much to cut paper, but it does readily slice. A little bit of edge lifting there, but the thing, I'm almost like chopping at it to see if it'll go. It won't do that. No, but it does bite in there, and it's pretty satisfying. There's not enough curvature for it to like really, slice, but it's readily getting at the edges of the paper, no problem. So it's really fun to cut with for sure. And I like these style of blades because it's easier to do draw cuts, which I find myself doing more than anything else. But your experience is going to vary, or your mileage is going to vary depending on what you do. I like that they DLC coated the inside of this fuller and left the flats satin finished, and then came back down here to the bevel. And out to the cutting edge, and also DLC that. That actually looks really neat. And just the aesthetic of it is really, really nice. Best Tech did a good job with this. I love that we have a captive pivot here, and it's just like a square. It actually works really well because the whole thing is like rectangles. 90-degree angles, right? So it looks good. And it also works really well with a handle profile. I mean, we have a very rectangular handle profile, but it's been nicely knocked down. And this little cutout right here is in just about the most perfect place. It's very comfortable. I mean, as far as like a long rectangle with a finger cutout could be, it's surprisingly comfortable, actually. And there's a nice choke up spot. A large sharpening tool there, so you got quite a ways before you actually run up on the edge. There's some pretty good indicators, you know, if you're not paying attention. It's not like you're going to immediately run your finger up on the edge, so I think that's fine. Really great. I mean, honestly, the knife looks really good. I've said before, there's you know, there's a good way to do simple and there's a bad way to do simple. And most people do simple the bad way. Like, to me, this is it's got simple lines, fairly simple. You know, it's a fairly simple aesthetic, but it's recognizable, and this is something that people will remember once they see it. There's a sea of knives that people will label as minimalist, right? And to me, anymore, that's starting to mean extremely forgettable. It's just like, oh wow, your new minimalist design, huh? Let me see that. Yeah, that's great. I'll toss it on the pile of the other billion knives that look exactly the same. And listen, that's fine. There's a place for all that stuff, and some people, like, that's what they're all about. They only buy minimalist looking stuff. I like there to be a little bit of character, a little bit of personality, right? This absolutely has personality. It's cool. I mean, from now on, every time I see this, you know, if I go like 5 years without seeing it, and then I see it again, I'll be like, that's a train knife. That's the RR station, right? And it's got those characteristics, and I like that. Carbon fiber on this looks nice. I wouldn't expect Best Tech to use crappy looking carbon fiber. The transition from the titanium, it's not really a bolster because this is all part of the frame, so the faux bolster transition from the titanium to the carbon fiber looks good. Fit and finish all the way around looks really good. I like that he's got all his logos and things on here, but not in a way that bothers me. Like, the pivot is fine. You've got this is number 3, I guess, but also it says knife standards on the inside of the frame. Thank you. I don't know why more companies don't, or more brands, and I mean, I get wanting to get your name out there, right? Put your name. I mean, how much is that really doing for your brand to have it blasted on the blade? For example, Microtech at this point does not need to put a paragraph. It's like they have a short story written on their blades just to make sure that we know that Microtech made it. It's like Microtech, we know you made it. At this point, you can't not know about Microtech. Like, we get it. If any company needs to take their crap off the blade, it's Microtech. But this guy is just like, no, I'd rather people look at the knife, because that's what they're buying it for. They're not buying my logo, they're buying my knife. So he keeps all that stuff off of it and puts it on the inside, right? That's pretty cool. I like that. So thank you for doing that. It's worth pointing out. A couple of standoffs back here, which is fine. Ambi clip, which we went over. It's very good. It's also a milled clip. That's really nice. We have a steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop. I like, if we're going to do a frame lock, I like that we have the scale material covering most of the frame lock. That makes it really a lot easier to deploy because you can put, sorry, off camera, you can put pressure on this. It doesn't matter how hard you squeeze. It's not going to affect the pressure on the lock bar or the detent ball pushing into the detent hole, which would make it harder to open, right? So people who might not be familiar with the profile or transitioning from one knife to another, you're not going to have difficulty figuring out how to deploy this. Because the lock bar is almost entirely covered by the scale material, which is really nice. The stop pin is actually attached to the blade, running on channels on either side of the titanium. That's nice. You get an additional point of contact, which really helps with lockout solidity while maintaining very good smoothness, which is exactly what I'm experiencing right here. No blade play up, down, left, or right. No lock stick, no pivot lash. Extremely smooth. I don't know what it is that they did differently here. But it really is smooth. And then we have a medium, I'm going to call it a medium detent. Just right for being able to deploy it reliably with the thumb stud, or if you so choose, pinky flipping it, which is not an experience that you will have with many knives. This is just a cool knife, man. I have to imagine most of the design elements were on purpose, but I feel like a little bit of this was just accident. Like the fuller just happened to work out as something that looks nice and looks kind of like a train, but you can also reverse it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was like, no, let's do it like this so that people can, flip it however they want to. But either way, however it came to be, it's just cool. I'm going to remember this one. I enjoy it. The price tag is $350. We are looking at VanX, but then again, I have seen a couple of companies utilizing VanX for less money. Then again, we have a little bit more going on here. So it's not the worst price in the entire world. I think I would have liked to see it come in a little bit less, but the fun factor and the cool factor is so good here. I'm really having a problem criticizing the price tag because it just puts a big smile on my face. And, I would love to say that my sense of value is impenetrable and that I cannot be swayed, right? I cannot be persuaded one way or another, that my sense of value is absolute and I have a robotic way of going about it, but I don't. Things that put a smile on my face, things that make me happy, or things that are fun, it lowers my guard a little bit, right? And you can pretend that you're not just like me if you want to, right? But you are. If not with this, with other things, right? So this is one of those things that I just really enjoy. So I don't want to come down to the price tag too much. I suppose if it came in at something like $325, I would have said that's fair. So we're 25 over that, and we're over $300. So how much impact could that really have? I mean, you can think whatever you want. I think that the price is just a little bit high. But I hope that he does more of these, and I hope he continues to do different versions, or, evolves it slightly in one way or another. And I hope he continues to use VanX. I think that's really, really neat. If you can manage to get a hold of this for the original price, I think it's fine. But if you're finding these on the secondary market for way more, no, I wouldn't. Don't let people do that. That's just, don't let the freaking booger wizards, take you for a ride. There's no reason for that. But this is really interesting, and his first design is really cool. I've actually yet to upload the review on that. His first design's fine, but this is something that I will much more easily remember. I really enjoyed this one. So that's going to be pretty much it today, guys. Thanks so much to Knife Standards for sending this in. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.